Hey, what's up, students? Hope you all are having a great week. We're continuing in our COVID-19 Discipleship Challenge, looking at the fruit of the Spirit. Today, we're going to focus in on the banana. That's right. Now, the banana is one of the most unknown parts of the fruit of the Spirit. Nobody really understands where it comes from because it's not biblical. Okay, guys, that's a joke. We're not going to look at the fruit of the Spirit of the banana because that's not a real deal, and that's point one. Today, we're going to look at the part of the fruit of the Spirit, and that is joy. Now, I think joy is one of those Christian catchphrase words that we hear all the time, and we think we are supposed to have it like all the time, and it's just this giant smile on our face. And I think there's a lot of times where we mix up the definition of happiness and joy, especially happiness in light of our culture's meaning of it, right? Our culture, when we say happy, we think about this feeling that you and I are made for. That you're supposed to chase everything that makes you happy with everything that you are, and anything that doesn't make you happy, push it as far away from you as possible, because that's not the point of life. The point of life is happiness. And I think there's a lot of times where we look at that and say, is that what joy is? And the biblical definition of joy is very different, right? Happiness has to do with your circumstances, external realities to who you are, that you experience, that brings you an emotion, happiness, right? Like getting an A on a test, or having approval from a friend, or having the quarantine lifted. That is going to make me very happy. But joy is different. Joy is an identity marker. It's an internal reality that does not change. It's not temporal, and it brings about this steadfastness. Right? It's an anchor into who you are. And one of my favorite passages in the scriptures, Psalm 126, one of my favorite psalms, it gives us a glimpse at where it is that joy comes from, what is its source, and how it is that you and I can get it. So let's look at that. It's Psalm 126, verses 1 through 3. Here's what it says. When the Lord restored the fortunes of Zion, we were like those who dream. Then our mouths were filled with laughter and our tongues with shouts of joy. And they said among the nations, the Lord has done great things for them. And the Lord has done great things for us, and we are glad. And when we look at this passage, we see that the source of joy, this thing that does not change about who we are, this thing that comes into us and actually becomes a part of what we are as people, is this experiencing of restoration. It says when God restored the people of Israel, they were filled with shouts of joy, with laughter, they were glad. And they were experiencing, in this context, experiencing a release from Babylon, coming back to the promised land after 70 years of captivity, and they were being restored as the nation and people of God. And what's amazing about the gospel is Jesus does the exact same thing with you and me. Because of his life, his death, his resurrection, his promised return, your and I's life has literally been brought out of death and into life. Because of what Christ has done for us. He has restored and is restoring you and I into the image of Christ, which one day we will actually see and be as we see him as he is. And so as you're thinking about your life and where does joy come from, is this reality of God restoring you and bringing about renewal into your life. Now think about in your life, how is it that God has changed you? What has he set you free from? What is it that he has brought new life into your existence as a result of the gospel? And that as you and I think about that, we recognize that the source of joy is not something that's outside of me or inside of myself, but is something that is done to me, a work of the Spirit by God's restoring power in the gospel. And then the second aspect is how do you and I experience that? And the reality that we see in this passage is that you and I, like Israel, have to have a great sense of humility that says, God, I have to be restored. I'm broken and you have to fix me. And whether that's for the first time ever, saying, Jesus, I need something outside of this world, what I'm looking for in my approval from others, my accomplishments, my status, whatever it is in this tangible world that I'm looking for satisfaction, I'm not finding. God, I need to be restored because I run to things that are broken just as I am. And when God brings about that restoration in our life, that's when you and I experience joy. But it starts with us being humble, saying, God, you have to restore me. And that's something that we do not only once, but something that we do every single day, every moment, saying, God, I'm broken. You have to restore me. And as we are reminded of the restoring power of the gospel of Jesus, our lives are changed and transformed by the joy that we have in Christ. Hey, be joyful this week. Rejoice always. Again, I say rejoice in what God has done by bringing about restoring power in the gospel. Love you guys. Rejoice well this week.